Right, we're gonna go live. In one, two, three, go. Hello, guys. This is Power Extra Radio, and this is your Drive Time Business host, Abdul Shakur. And I've got someone very excited here in the studio today, and I'm really excited to interview him. Um, Josh, I want you to give yourself an introduction here.
Oh, thank you so much, Abdul. It's a real pleasure to be here. I guess I am predominantly well known, or not so well known, I guess, but have been a professional poker player for the last 10 years. Um, but I've also been exploring the world of business. On my kind of journey as a poker player, I kind of went into a bit of understanding around personal development. I also found like business development and business understanding, and now uncovered an understanding around marketing as well. And I think that's really specific in and around new kind of social media. So things like Snapchat, Instagram, all those kind of new things that a lot of old school business people which might not be too familiar with. They're the kind of trends and opportunities that I've just basically been exploring and uncovering and just really been enjoying a lot.
Cool. And tell us a bit more about your journey as a poker player. Like, how the hell did you pick up poker as a career? When did you think it was possible? What was the journey for you to get to the stage from having just a skill in poker to then turn it into a professional career for yourself?
Well, I would say I happened upon it by chance, like most great things in life. I was studying biomedical sciences at Warwick University, specialising in virology, and that sounds as boring as as it may for a few people, as I found it. Going in and doing lab work wasn't for me. Whilst I loved kind of knowledge and kind of the understanding around science, I felt like I wanted something else. Unfortunately for me, Warwick University had, or probably still has, the largest poker society there. So sooner or later I went along, played this game with cards, saw people winning chips, and you could win money. And so we got back to our dorm rooms and we got the pennies out, and some people started telling us about how people were making money online. And I was like, okay, this sounds interesting. So me and my friend that I used to go to the gym with, and we used to go to the gym like every single day, he did computer science. And I think it happened around basically all the art students. They get this reading week where they get time off, a whole week where they just go home and read. Our scientists, we had to be in the lab, we had to be at our lectures, and me and my friend were a bit rebellious, and he turned to me and said, why don't we have our own reading week? And I said, yeah, let's do that. And then he turned around and said, but what are we going to do? And I said, why don't we have a go at this poker thing? So we basically decided to put £300 of my money, my student loan money or savings, whichever bracket you want to put that in. We put that online, and in the course of 12 hours we turned that into $14,000. And we had a great night, and we thought we knew everything about poker. Little did we know. So we took some of that money, invested in books, knowledge, learning about the game, but in the course of 2 weeks we probably lost all that money back to the system, because basically how poker works is the better players win all the money, and there are much better players out there than us. But we realised that over the summer we were going to really dedicate ourselves to playing poker. Don't know if you know anything about poker, but the poker boom happened with Chris Moneymaker, this lawyer that qualified for the World Series main event, which is the biggest poker event. It's a $10,000 buy-in usually, but there are these things called satellites, and if you win a tournament in a satellite, you can then get a ticket into this. So for $40, he managed to get a $10,000 ticket into the main event, and as a result, he won the main event for $10 million. And because he was just an accountant, kind of, he's got this, he's a very American, laid-back kind of guy. I saw that guy, and a lot of people saw that guy and said, hey, that guy can do it, then maybe I have a shot. And so me and my friend decided over that summer we were going to dedicate ourselves to playing poker. We didn't have money for rent. A lot of the guys, the finalists that were leaving, they came with all their food in terms of tins that they'd saved up over the course of the year. They gave us all the tins and said, "Enjoy, boys, good luck." And I remember it was one of the hottest summers ever. I would wake up and we were looking to recycle, but because we're guys, we never really got around to it till the end when we left. So there were just all these tins on the floor, and I'd open another tin, have some food, and then sit down and start playing. And we started on the very lowest limits that we could find back then, which is basically, I don't know, I don't want to get too technical for people, but basically maximum buy-in was about $25, so at the time it was about around £12.50 to sit down at a table. And when you sit down like that, you can lose that money, but you could double that money up. And we were playing maybe 10 to 12 tables at a time online, and every month we kind of doubled our bankroll, which for those individuals that know business is pretty much kind of like equivalent to your float. So doubling your float, which meant we could then move up a limit. So then instead of buying for $25, we could then sit up to the next table, which was a $50 buy-in. So for £25, and we would play 10 tables of that. And we kept going and going and going. And every month we'd just move up and up, and another one of our friends would come into this bungalow and they would put another desk in the front room and play with us. And how do we achieve that? How do we have such discipline? Well, I remember my friend came in and he had a hammer in one hand and he had blacked out curtains and nails in the other, and he basically banged these nails in over the front lounge. And he said, "Right, we're going to live on California time. We're basically going to play America." And back then, when you could play America, when there was a lot more players online, it was a very good opportunity. And we wish those days were still here, because, yeah, they were good times. Anyway, by the end of the year, I'd gone fully pro. He still was finishing off his degree. But when he finished his degree, and a number of individuals had finished their degrees, we had made enough money to then go off and go live in Las Vegas, which initially we did. We played in the World Series, but then we actually got an apartment out there for a number of months, and it was a beautiful place in all regards. It had two 17-inch plasma TVs, one we never used in the basement, one in the lounge. It had two lounges, one we never used because we always walked past. It had a pool, it had shared ensuite for all the guys in the bedrooms. It was beautiful for all accounts. I should have been the happiest person in the world, but I wasn't.
And what point in, while you were at Las Vegas, did you realize that this was making me unhappy? And what was that decision that you made at that point?
I think in all accounts, what it was for me was this aspect of not being able to grow as much. In the course of this journey, I started with my friends. It was the bungalow was on the council estate, and I was wearing a white T-shirt and trackies every day, and and that was standard for people living on the council estate. And there was a real challenge. There was motivation surrounding me every single day to say, "Hey, you're better than this. There's more potential within me. Let's do this every single day. Let's find something bigger and better." But once I'd kind of got to those materialistic truths in Las Vegas, I was lost. I was truly lost. And it's crazy how so many individuals are asked to decide their lives when they're 16, at school. Like, are you going to continue with A-levels? Which A-levels are you going to do? Initially I did a law degree. And then I said, oh, I don't want to be a lawyer. Let me do biomedical sciences. So then I was doing that at Warwick. And it was like, oh, maybe I don't want to be someone that's in a lab coat every single day. And I think the same feeling of feeling lost happened to me when I was in Vegas, because I was truly lost. And I was like, you know what? When I got back to London after that, I needed to find myself and really find what I wanted to pursue, because it just didn't do it for me. I think the materialistic sell, it's good at some levels. It provides you a level of comfort, security. But at the end of the day, I think, as someone we know very well says, it's all about the climb. It's about releasing more potential within yourself. And once you feel that that's not there, that's what it was for me. Yeah.
And okay, so what level of mental skill did it take for you to become a poker player?
I would say...
Was it effortless? Was it very easy? Was it natural for you? Or was it like I had to put hours upon hours upon hours of work into it?
I would say it was effortless, and I think that was probably a big danger in many ways. In terms of abilities, you have to be good at basic math in terms of multiples, in terms of figuring out probabilities, in terms of just counting the pot. You know, I'm not the best at counting things. I'm really good at like multiplying things and good at mental arithmetic. So if someone asks me how many chips I've got in my stack, I never say, one, to not give off tails live, but also I probably would get it wrong in terms of counting. So counting's not an important one, but understanding individuals, understanding the frequencies of their habits, their tendencies, their bet sizing, what every like sigh means or their reaction to a flop. Picking up all those little details is very easy for me because I'd spent my life as someone that was very academic, being very good with mental processes. So that developed habit was very easy for me. But saying that, you know, when I got back from Vegas and I was living in London, I was happening with to be living with someone that has been rated as one of the best in the world in terms of heads up. He's a millionaire from poker himself, and he was still going deeper in terms of actually doing work. Mm-hmm. Actually waking up every day, and rather than just rushing down to, we had like 4 big screens with us 4 players on one desk, and 30-inch screens, and then just a 24-inch turn on its side, which was just the kind of table selector. Instead of him rushing down, he would be one of the last to come down, also be one of the last to leave, but that was because he was working upstairs in his bedroom on his laptop in terms of learning the game and also doing like math work around playing, it's known as game theory optimal, GTO, in terms of really having a very balanced range of hands so that someone can't really take advantage of you within the game. It's, you know, I don't want to get too technical in terms of these terminologies, but basically in poker, for someone to win, another person must lose. So there's no like extra value being created within the space within poker, and as a result, individuals are looking to get that edge from other players at the table because they need to find someone that they can win money off of. Because what happens in poker is the dealer at the table doesn't care who wins. It's like a bank transfer. It just takes a little percentage off the winner. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, it's very important that you don't give away too many weaknesses, and yeah. GTO is a way of optimizing that in a mathematical way.
So what is it? Do you still play? I'm guessing you still play poker, right? I mean, professionally.
Yeah.
But what else do you do now? Where are you kind of you realize that it made you unhappy, but you were amazing at it and you made a lot of money from it. But what is it that you're doing now that kind of is completely different? Where is your journey taking you now? What's the next step for Josh?
Well, I think a really important point or area around that is realizing how much potential is within all of us. And I think when I went into personal development, and people can say good things about it, people say bad things about it, and there are good and bad as with everything, right? One thing it does do is unlock the truth around how unlimited our lives can be and how much opportunity there is in the world. And I thought at one point, you know, for being someone that was so academic and someone that saw themselves as always being so successful, just to become a millionaire from poker would have been a massive achievement for me back in the day in terms of my mindset. But what personal development opened up was like, actually, that in itself could be a little bit small in terms of potentiality as well. And if we talk about potentiality, everyone's unlimited anyway, so you can always go, you know, millions and billions and trillions and keep going and going and going. And I know this is why people like Elon Musk are looking to inhabit other planets like Mars, and how far can we go in terms of pushing it in terms of understanding. So for me, unlocking that was first of all the most important thing, and I think a lot of individuals don't get that through the education system, they don't get that at school, they don't even think that they could do that, right? That was a really important part of my journey, and like realizing that was really important. Then for me to like be surrounded by business people that have become financially free through their business ventures. I've seen a lot of guys doing a lot of different things, whether it was like designing toys or having something around property or doing any number of these business things. I was like, wow, this seems like an exciting journey. This is a journey that I want to take. But what would I do? You know, a lowly poker player like me, what value would I bring? And then I guess I happened upon someone that we tend to talk about a lot, which is Gary Vaynerchuk, aka Gary V, for anyone who's looking on Twitter or Snapchat or any of that. And yeah, he speaks some real truth and some real realization bombs again. And that's when I started to explore Snapchat and started to realize, like, oh, there's a whole world of connection on Snapchat available, especially Snapchat. You know, you can do it through Instagram, you can do it through other social media platforms, but I think Snapchat's very special. And that started to make me think, okay, maybe there's an opportunity, because I saw a lot of these guys that were live streaming experts, that were Snapchat experts, that were experts in their fields, that might not be getting the biggest followings. And so I'm looking to basically set up something where I can support them on their journey.
Hmm. And going back to some of the things that you've learned from poker, before we go on to a bit more dive deeper into Snapchat, what are the three biggest life lessons that poker taught you?
Brilliant. Yes. I would say staying in the game is really important. When you've developed a skill, you know, I stepped out of poker for 2.5 years, and in those 2.5 years there was a lot of opportunity. It wasn't necessarily an opportunity where I was looking at in terms of online, but there was massive opportunity live, and I play live now. You know, the competition level online is at the very highest levels. You've got a lot of players that do a lot of work off the tables, a bit like with training for a marathon. It's the sweat hours you put that no one sees that really counts in anything that you do. But there's a lot of people at the end of the day that do absolutely zero work in live, that literally come along to gamble, that they just look to have fun, you know. They're the fun players. And that's what makes poker really, really good. And so I took a lot of opportunity off the table by not staying in the game, not realising an opportunity there. I say that's first and foremost, you know. And number two, I would say, actually, is an emotional understanding. Really getting to grips around knowing your own emotional drives, your emotional tendencies. The person that wins all the chips in terms of at the top of the tier, they don't necessarily always have to be playing the best strategy, but if they've got their emotions in check, it's very rarely that they're going to be able to, that you're going to get many chips from them. So getting on top of that was a whole journey within itself. And then third, I would say, and this really relates to business aspect, which is knowing the white space. And I guess that kind of relates to the first area. And what do I mean in terms of the white space? I mean in terms of opportunity. Now, the opportunities in poker have gone from like being online when America was there, now they're not online, to being live, and actually there's some really great games in Macau. And I know youngsters, there's a young guy who was in the main event this year. He's 24 years old, financially free. He's been financially free for like years through poker, because he basically moved out into Macau, where there were some big games, again, individuals that had no idea what poker was about, that wanted to play. So that's been a really important lesson in terms of life, really, you know, looking for that white space. I've seen it in a lot of business as well, like in terms of property, people looking, you know, where's the next, we were just talking about this area in terms of Croydon, in terms of a lot of the money that's being invested here, in terms of billions being invested here. There's a lot of opportunity in terms of property, in terms of some people have seen this as a white space, money has come into here. So if you're a property developer, this is actually a really good opportunity. You know, there's some good transport links into London. It's the same. That's the same game every single time. So yeah.
And from a business perspective, what are the as an entrepreneur, as someone who loves the psychological game of business and marketing and all these things, what analogy from poker can you put into business that these people can start, you know, some of the listeners, some of the viewers can start, you know, applying straight away?
I think it's really important to have your bankroll management under wraps, and I think this again, in terms of business, people talk about a float. In terms of if you're getting funding, whether that be through crowdsourcing or through VC or through people that trust you in terms of business, knowing your runway. You know, what are your costs in terms of day to day, and how far can you afford to keep pushing out and looking to get clients, and then not get clients. You know,
Yeah.
how long has your business got to go until it falls back to zero? You know, everything has an opportunity to fall back to zero at the end of the day. I think that's really important. I always, again, in poker, I always thought that I had to do it myself, and I think that limited a lot of opportunity. To think that I had to move up those limits, whilst it was a real kind of great exploration, I got better as a player, better. You know, the thing that made my friend a millionaire was the fact that he would say, "Oh, you guys are going out to watch the latest Batman movie. I'm going to stay and play. I'm going to move up. I'm going to move on the biggest tables there are available. Do you want to take a piece of my action?" And we would come home from the cinema and be like, "Oh, great! Our friend just made us money." But we had invested in him because he's an investable commodity, and he just did that again and again and again, and was able to move up the limits more and more and more.
So is this about investing in people in terms of the skill set and what they can do for you? Is that how you would see it?
Yeah, I think it goes both ways. The best investment you can make in yourself is building up your skill set and whatever abilities and understandings and knowing your marketplace. The biggest opportunity, and I talk about a lot about property because I've worked very closely with a property developer. The biggest thing in property isn't having the money. It's about knowing where those properties are in terms of opportunities. And the same happens in terms of poker. Like, if you're living in Macau and you know you're one of the best players in the world, but you happen to be broke, you have no problem really, as long as people know that you can make money, because then you're investable. Then you can get money. The same in terms of property. Like, if you find that house where that person's like, "I just want to sell it, I'm happy for you to whatever work, I'll sign whatever contract," that's what these property guys do. It's like, bam, okay, you can get funding for that, because people will know, like, oh, I can return your money with 10% within 6 months, you know.
That's very interesting. I'd say there's a lot of people that look at when you're on a table and you have to read people and you have to really look at the detail. For any normal person to do that, who's not in the field of psychology, who don't understand anyone, how, like, where did you pick up that skill of reading people? Was it something that you practiced because you were there and you started taking notice, or was it a book that you read, or was it something that you saw online? Where did that kind of thought into your head come and say, "Look, I need to start reading people. I need to start understanding people"?
Um, well, this is going deep. I think you always pick up those skills, but it's only when you get specific training that you realise what you're seeing. And I think in poker, it would be the guy called Jared Tendler. He's got, that's Tendler, for anyone that wants to know this in poker. So Jared is basically the guy, he has a free podcast, but he also has a lot of really good books on realising what you're seeing with an individual and what that means, how that translates. So I'd always be able to pick up on someone that's being very loud, very abrasive, and very outgoing, and then they're very quiet. What does that mean? You know, I think very specifically in poker, you have to realise that people are looking to hide their intentions. You know, and you have to realise to what degree someone is doing that in their life. And so at poker table, they're looking to give you the opposite read. So usually strength means weakness and weakness means strength. That's just a very broad general terminology. There's distinctions around kind of like how people move their chips and how they kind of act when the pressure's on and they just put a big bet in, and all those little distinctions that Jared is really good at illustrating. But yeah, you get an overall feel sometimes, an intuition that you're like, oh, there's something about this guy, he looks deeply uncomfortable, he's put this bet in, and I've already got a lot of kind of poker knowledge to say that he should only have a few hands for value here. So that makes it all the easier for me to call. Now, the primary understanding has kind of come from that strategic understanding around poker. You know, for me to be at that situation where someone's put that money in on later street, as we call them, and in Hold'em. But yeah, so I would say you always have a gut understanding, but the training is so important that you get from someone that's actually studied it and broken it down and really translate it to something.
Mm-hmm. You brought up an interesting phrase called intuition, and I think a million people don't really understand what intuition is, and it's that feeling from your heart, and that's driven by gut and fear. But in terms of your intuition, Like, for example, if I'm in a say, if I'm out there selling something and my intuition tells me that this person doesn't have the money, should I automatically back away from that person, or should I actually go and try and approach and understand that person more, or do you straight away, as soon as if intuition tells something, do you challenge it, or do you kind of like move away?
It's really interesting. Like I can remember from a lot of education videos around poker were online. You know, and they would just be able to show you the tables online that are playing. And one of the guys at first was really super hot, amazing player. He would be talking about all this kind of strategic poker stuff, but then he said, you know what? If you just got that gut feeling that your hand's bad, you need to let go and walk away. Similarly, in a business circumstance, it doesn't matter what they're saying or what their situation is. What matters is what you feel about them. So if they're saying, look, I haven't got any money, but your intuition is good and strong with them, it's like, okay, how can we work this out? Is there something that we can do together? If they're saying, oh, I have all the money in the world, but you're feeling like there's something really off about this person, it's probably not going to be the best deal, in all honesty. There's something beyond. I don't think we've cracked it into the science yet, but there is something there, you know, that even all these scientific guys, all these math guys come down to, that the really successful guys say, you know what, my intuition is telling me something, just
Because
follow it.
Gary Vee talks about intuition quite a fair bit, and he, as much as he's like, I'm a practitioner, I'm a very practical person, I do what needs to be done. But if you notice, everything he does, all the when he's on stage and when he's reacting to someone or when he's reacting to something, it's all very based on intuition. He says what his intuitive says, and his intuition says. It just goes with it. And that's what
100%.
makes him more powerful as a business owner, because if you look at some of the best marketers in the world, the best entrepreneurs in the world, half of them don't use intuition. They're very they're very traditional business owners who just do it typically business like, what's the logical reason behind this, is it a yes or no? I've got advisors to tell me like, this is a bad idea, this is a good idea, but ultimately I think if you should go for it, okay, brilliant, I'll go with it.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you'll be defined by your decisions that you make in life, and that's true in poker as it is in business. And it's a great is a great analogy again, both those two things, that in business you can make it just being the numbers guy, the stats guy, the guy that hides behind the screen, the guy that's very introvert, you can win. And the same for poker, you can just be the computer guy that never goes out of the house, that just works. Basically, we have these hubs which basically picks up on all these frequencies and all these numbers. So if you're raising a lot of hands, I'll know the percentage of hands you're raising and how many times you look to fold your hand and how often you will turn over your hand at the river, all those sort of things, right? Or you can be the guy, like I met one guy and he would come in, and this was the top Mayfair club that I used to play in very recently. And he would come and outright, you could tell, like he would come and shake all our hands and be like really connected with all of us, and never play with a single any one of us pros, right? And it's like, what's this guy doing? And he'd been around the game for ages, right? And it was like, this is so interesting. And he's not as good at poker, so he's not going to put himself in that situation playing with some of the best pros out there. He doesn't need to, because what he's doing is going around shaking those hands, being a people person. And what he does is he sets up a private game in the Ritz. So he's going around, and then he'll go in and then he'll meet those guys, those business guys that are come in that are playing with us. And I'm like, you know what? Oh, great to see you again. Are you playing the afternoon game? Are you playing? Are you playing a bit of Omaha? Are you doing this? And he just runs a private game in the Ritz. He doesn't need to be so ultimately great in the numbers because he's so good at the people game. And I think that's something that individuals miss. I think the people game is very intuitive. The people game is an area which we'll talk about with Gary Vee. Like he talks about, he couldn't be the kind of, I guess Mark Zuckerberg is a great example around the numbers and the math and being a tech guy. When he was hanging out with Mark Zuckerberg, he was like, I ain't going to be creating the next app. But the one thing I know is people. The one thing I know what to do with people is to sell something that's going to benefit them in the right way, right? And there's huge money here. This is more, I guess, kind of IQ and something which is being focused on in terms of technology, and I guess they're called bots now in terms of AI. So it's becoming more of a commodity, which Gary Vee talks about. But this area is EQ. It's personal skills. It's like, you know what? Why don't you check out the Ritz game? Why are you uncomfortable about that? You know, you're in here with just pros. Why don't you come and hang out with a few professional football players or whoever it might be? You know, that's just a alleged statement there.
And the networking side of and it comes down to what you were saying to me yesterday when you were speaking about how you can't just be this person at a table that just puts his hoodie on and sits down and just focuses on becoming the best player. You need to look around who's around you. You need to look at your environment and the people and seeing what they're doing. And it's like in business, people focus so much in the business that they forget about who's around them and what's going on in the industry and the market that they can actually do something well with.
Yeah, it's crazy. Depending on which, I guess we're not one or the other. We're more of a balance. It's a spectrum where we are on that. But I was always like, I wanted to be spending more time with individuals and connecting with them and doing more business stuff. But actually, there's a certain degree of me like having to spin these plates and like get the business and the effectual delivery of the service, the product, up to par. There's so many individuals that I see that the education is set up to create great individuals here, great at the technical skills, and I think that's one of the primary reasons why there aren't so many individuals that are great at the business skills per se, because they've never realised. And I see great individuals that are in technical roles that would be great in sales, like amazing in sales and connection and networking, but they don't realise how powerful it is because they think that they have to have this down. And it's like, no, if you can sell, you can import that product or you can outsource that service or you can bring that thing across. All you do is manage the relationships. It's a relationship game that business is.
So here's a question that you're probably going to think, okay, slightly off topic, but would you class yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
It's so
and why?
So fascinating. Like, I definitely have. I definitely am more on the extrovert, but I think I'm 70-30. There is time where I need the downtime. There's time like whenever you go to a big conference event, geez, like within a few hours, I'm feeling it. Like in terms of stall upon stall of like businesses and people and offerings.
So
and
do you
like,
become an introvert at that point, or do you kind of embrace the extrovertness and fit right into those big environments, especially if you're going to a massive poker game or you're kind of at a conference or an event? Do you put yourself in one corner and talk to individual by individual, or do you kind of show the extrovert side of you?
I much prefer the depth, and I realise the power of the depth. And I think I remember listening to a podcast with Timothy Ferriss around this, when he came to an event, and I think it was for one of the top tech VC guys, and he was looking to launch his book, The 4-Hour Workweek, and they were all just running up to him, and he was just hanging back, and he was connecting with the registrar, the person that was just doing the admin. And she was like, "Hey, what are you doing? What are you about?" And he was like, "Oh, yeah, I'm just looking to promote this book. I just wondered if the speaker guy would be interested." And she was like, "Oh, well, I'm his wife. Maybe I can put forward your name." And like that actually built the relationship. And it's like,
wow,
everyone has value, and it doesn't matter who you get to talk to, because this is the thing as well. And maybe we're going to a little kind of spirituality or kind of woo-woo, but like there's something around kind of like what you put out is what you get in terms of energy, and if you're there and you're someone of value, sooner or later the people the naysayers, the complainers, the vampire energies, the people that suck the energy as energy vampires, they're not going to be cool hanging out with someone that's just really about not giving any kind of kudos to the drama. Not kind of feeding into the pity party, which, I think in the Western world, for the vast majority of people, it's like, we don't have anything to excuse ourselves from. Like, in terms of, we got it hard. We kind of talked about, I know, like we've talked about your kind of journey. I don't know if you shared it on here, but like, even then, it's so much better than in some situations where it's war-torn or there's just absolutely zero opportunity.
100%.
It's just like, it's so hard elsewhere, and yet for some reason it's almost like a disease or a virus. People love to moan. People love to complain like, "Oh, I've got it really hard. I'm only earning 60k a year in my executive job and I'm really stressed out." And it's like, okay, well, that might be true, but know that you have decided upon that, and if you want to change that in some way, actually you can. And Gary talks about that, and that's kind of like a lot of opportunity with the social media.
It's, you know, when you sit with a Gary and the Gary Vee fan, you kind of tend to go on about Gary Vee. So I'm going to kind of continue the trend here. Um, it's like he talks about how you can have a massive ego, but you need to have the humility to match it. Most people only have the ego and they don't have the humility alongside it. So is it the same case for you as a professional, as a someone who loves the people's game? You can't go into the game of poker or any sort of business with an ego, or can you have an ego but have the massive humility with it? Does that work for you?
You know what? This is something I want to say to Gary, and I'll probably share it if he does an interview with us or me or wherever this occurs. But like, if he didn't share any of his ego stuff, if that wasn't shared, like even though we all have it, we're human, I think people would think he's more like the Dalai Lama of business in some ways. Like it's just like, you know, because if he didn't have that grit, if he didn't have all of that dirt, it would just be like, wow, this guy's just give, you know, and then he's like, here's an opportunity. Yeah, so I found out very quickly in terms of live poker that it's political. They're like that guy that's working that room. It's not just the poker players. It's not just the guys that come in for a gamble. There's an opportunity. It's him working the room in terms of the supervisors. Him working the room in terms of the masseuses there, and in terms of the waitresses, in terms of all the staff members. It's very political. And if you come in and you're arrogant and you've got too much ego and too much voraciousness, sooner or later you're going to do something in a pot which might be an accident. You might blow up, and there's not going to be much leeway in terms of having you there, especially in a situation where poker is an add-on. You know, if you play live in terms of casino, the casino is making most of its money from the casino floor, not from poker. Poker's just a service that it makes, and the dealers just take a percentage of the pot, right? It's not as much as the people losing the money on roulette or blackjack or any of the other games, right? So it has poker as a pull-in. So some people, they want to come and play poker, and then they're like, I know what, I'm going to go out and play blackjack now.
Do you ever go to these environments, whether it's a poker, whether it's a bar, whether it's a restaurant, and just sit there and just watch people and their behavior? Do you do that? Is it something that have you been to casino and not played and just sit there and watch people and seeing what goes on and try and take a note of everything? Do you do that sort of thing?
Is this at the poker table or just in the casino?
Anywhere. It could be do you do it at the poker table and you not do it outside in a normal restaurant or while you're walking, or is it something that you do all the time?
I think it's something that I guess I've cultivated after realising how powerful and beneficial it is. I remember being on a train in the front carriage, and you know, being a poker player, you're in the entertainment business. Mm-hmm. You're going to be playing Friday nights, Saturday nights, Sunday. You know, it's a weekend. It's where people want to like let loose, have fun. They want to gamble. They want to put their chips in. They want to see if they get lucky. Some of the time they will. Most of the time they won't. But either way, they'll have a story, right? Mm-hmm. And so because of that, there's a very dedicated time around being there on Friday night, Saturday night. So I'm going out, I think it was Saturday night this time, maybe a bit later than I should have, mm-hmm. But I was there. And I think there was 2 girls in the carriage. They came in, and I'm like, okay. They're really loud. They seem to be from Essex. They seem very fun, very vibrant, and they were doing all this stuff on their phone. And you know, as again Gary Vee says, he loves to watch these youngsters and see what they're up to. And I actually started talking to them after watching them so much. They were so outgoing, it would be hard not to. And I got to find out that these guys, they were going to go to actually a TOWIE event and meet some TOWIE guys or individuals and have a party there. But that they don't use Facebook, they're only on Snapchat, they're only on Instagram, not on Twitter, not on anything else. Mm-hmm. Snapchat is their number one, pretty much, unless it's on Instagram for the photos. And we took a photo together. Do you know how many photos we took before they got their one? It was at least 7 to 10, I can't remember. They were like, no, like again. And that's a whole different culture from what I grew up with at university as a youngster. Like, we just didn't have these devices. We didn't have that kind of understanding. So it was like, wow, okay. Any opportunity, I'm looking for that. I'm looking at opportunity on the train into the casino, let alone the casino.
There's a lot of people that talk about Snapchat and the fact that, oh, it's a very American thing in the UK. It's not that big in the UK. What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think that they've hung out with young 20-year-olds or even younger, you know.
How about for the 25 to 40-year-old audience? Because Gary Vee's mentioned that, the 25 to 40-year-old audience are picking up on this very quick.
As an overall demographic, you know, you've got over 300 million users. That's actually the highest demographic, but the majority of that demographic is American right now. I think it's just really a matter of time until people or individuals, you know, business marketers realise that the power of that, the power of Snapchat. There's You get to see someone's world, and I think I was sharing last night with James Porritt, which you had
Yeah.
on the radio before, that you know, with a tweet, you don't really know the tone, the intonation, or what people, or what their mindset was. Well, on the Snapchat, on the story, you get to see their entire world. You get to see the background. You get to see how they are, like whether they're depressed, whether they're tired, whether they're over the moon. You know, who else is involved. So there's a lot more context in Snapchat, and because of that, and because it's called Snapchat, you can message people. Now, let's not have all these spammy marketers jumping out there and doing douchey things. Like actually connecting with people and building relationships, there's a huge opportunity in that Snapchat, which I don't really think exists on a predominant level in any other social media device to that level.
Do you think Instagram is now coming in as with their Instagram stories? Do you think that's gonna take a bit of business away from Snapchat, take a massive user base away from there, and people are starting to jump back on Instagram? Do you think that's gonna happen?
I think what Stories has done is kept the people that are loyal to Instagram really, because right now who I see on Instagram are people that are really fans of Instagram, and they'll be the individuals. There are very few people on my top stream that put Instagram stories up. But the people that do are the people that use Instagram a lot. And so it's really good at keeping that fan base on Instagram. I don't think it's going to really take people away from Snapchat. A lot of individuals as well on Instagram say, check out my Snapchat in the Instagram story. The benefit of it is that if I'm not scrolling down, I will just click on that top bar. And I think individuals are doing that. And so I think it's something whereby they're not going to lose individuals. It's not something that people are going to come in and say, I'm going to use Instagram because of stories.
And for example, I get this question asked a lot because I talk a lot about Snapchat to a lot of my younger audience and the people who want to become, the YouTubers, or they want to become influencers in some way or the other, or they want to create a fan base. They just, okay, so what do they do with Snapchat? Because people use it on a common basis as they're talking to their friends, having a joke and a laugh. But how do they use it in a business sense where they're actually trying to create an audience?
So first and foremost, you've got to create that content, which obviously resonates in terms of what you offer, but doing it in a fun way, doing it in a Snapchat way. There's so many different filters, there's so many different things you do with Snapchat, like be original. Don't just have that phone in front of your face and that's it for the whole time, Mix up the angles, mix up the filters that you use, the things that you do. Make it fun. Snapchat's meant to be fun. So first and foremost, have fun in the stories that you create. Now, that should only be like 20% of what you do. 80% should be kind of what you were saying, which is using the chat function of like checking other people's stories out, people that you don't know, going into their worlds and connecting off a basis of like understanding them. And if you keep asking someone about what they do and how they're doing, eventually they're going to probably ask you what you do, similarly, right? Now, what's going to help this massively is having a directory around Snapchat. Maybe you've mentioned before ghost codes. Ghost codes is really huge in terms of finding individuals that are really good in different specific areas. Are they really great storytellers? Are they really good in business or entrepreneurship? Or are they about fitness and health or non-profit? So you can actually go into ghost codes, find the people that you want to follow that are really influential. And you can actually do Snapchat story takeovers or story shares where you message them, you build up that relationship, they realise you're a good person, that you've got a good offering, and actually you're not going to sell to people, you're just going to be like, hey, how about I take over your Snapchat for an hour or 2 hours or whatever period of time you discuss, or we swap Snapchat, right?
Do you think for someone to, because the thing is, you see a lot of amazing personalities on Snapchat. I'm one of the type of people that I can't really expressed my personality on Snapchat as much. So for someone like me, do you think it's still possible to use Snapchat to a stage where it's as powerful as how everyone else is doing this crazy fun thing? And again, I'm like, I can't do that. Like, I don't know. I don't know if there's a secret behind it. I don't know what it is. But do you think anyone could be a Snapchat influencer, or does it take a certain type of personality and or is it a practical way of doing it, or is it a natural thing?
I think again you can go in different routes. You might have a natural talent for Snapchat, and also so you won't have to put as much energy in. You won't have to try as hard, or you could be someone that actually like graphs and put it in. But remember that first rule from poker, which is staying in the game. And one thing in this is, there were people on Twitter that started from the first day of Twitter, and if they just stayed in the game, they would have 1 million followers, right? The same with Snapchat, like staying in the game, and just testing things. And I think time equals money. So when I said 20% is your story creation, 80% is the connection. How many people are actually connecting? The people that's message me sometimes, it's just so random, and it's an extenuation of their story. It's like, one thing that sometimes I have characters on Snapchat. One of my characters, E-Dog, says is like, why do I care, bro? I don't even know you. Like, I don't know you. So why am I going to care, right? I don't know you. So first and foremost, like, no one's really, like, introducing themselves. They're not really... And the same happens on Instagram. Like, I'll put a great or good post that people like up, and then I'll just get a message like, hey, yeah, cool, I'm an entrepreneur. Message me, just as a comment. And it's like, okay, I understand that you're probably putting that message up so that other people might see that and be like, oh, that guy's an entrepreneur too. Let me check him out. But really, like, if it was something that you actually resonated with, you would just message me, like someone has done on Snapchat before, and said, hey, really like your content. I like what you did in that story there, and there. This is a little bit about me. I wonder if we could collaborate on something, or whether you just want to like connect and build up from there. And if you worked just in that, and just on the relationship building, that 80%, then you would crush. Like, it doesn't matter how good you actually are at your story delivery. It would matter that you actually someone that appreciated other people's stories, other people's worlds.
And it's a bit like the same on any platform. For example, what I've noticed is the people that I've actually got a stronger relationship with, off just not just from posting, but the people I've had a chat with, people I know, those are people that will continuously come back and like my stuff because I've built a good relationship with them outside. So they'll always look at and watch my content and engage in my content. It's the same process Snapchat, isn't it?
100%. Like, I'm amazed. Sometimes I won't be on Snapchat for a period of time, and individuals that I've truly connected with, like literally on other platforms in terms of Anchor. I don't know if you're
I love
Anchor.
Anchor. I love Anchor.
Anchor's all about the audio.
Do you think the thing with Anchor is what I found is that it's not very, because the younger generation haven't really picked on it, it's not gonna go as big, but it's still a great platform. Does that make sense? Like I love Anchor as a platform because I love the 2 minute recording thing, because I can just drop a soundbite and reply to someone in a sound because I can't be asked texting sometimes. But it's like what we've noticed in the most successful platforms like Facebook and Twitter. It's always started off with the younger generation picking it up first, and then eventually everyone else doing it. Anchor's slightly a bit different.
Yeah, being cool is really important for adoption, it appears. So for just imagine if your mum was like, hey, using woolen carrier bags instead of plastic carrier bags is a really good idea. It's like, but if someone that was a trendsetter, that was a cool kid at school, that was someone that everyone knew, said, hey, I'm using recyclable bags that are much better for the environment than plastic, and people would get behind that just because there's that factor, there's that it factor, the X factor that individuals want to replicate. I think Anchor is awesome for depth of relationship, and that's why it really fits an older demographic. You have to listen. As much as you get to put that 2 minutes out or that minute reply, you have to listen to their replies. So
that's time consuming.
And that's time consuming, and I think that's one of the limitations around the app and around the adoption of the app, is that
you stick it down to 1 minute or so, you'll probably even less, 30 seconds.
100%. Short and sharp and sweet. Individuals' attention spans have dropped lower and lower with the advent of these devices. And so whilst I love Anchor, I don't know. Like I think it's a really good opportunity to network with older individuals
Mm-hmm.
that might have experience in things that you don't, and being able to like go, oh, what do you know about the tech world? Which I've been able to talk to Avi, the tech concierge, or be able to talk to someone in business, or a lot of other individuals, which I think is missed out on in a lot of society. We think
Mm-hmm.
like just hanging with the cool kids is it, but it's like no, it's like the society is multifactorial.
Talking about the older generation, how do you, you were talking about this yesterday, how you're very lucky to have the type of people that have got a lot of money and be around that area. A lot of business people, entrepreneurs want to be around these people, but don't necessarily want to go into the gambling environment. What is it that they could do to reach out to these people who are highly successful or highly, who've got a lot of money that they can possibly invest in something?
Yeah, I think poker acts as a great medium, and you just got to find what might be a great medium. Like I think we've talked about business clubs are a great medium. Um, something like even a Facebook group or finding someone on Snapchat is a great medium. Like all these things are opportunities at the end of the day to build relationships. You just have to be able to be like say, okay, look, I'm going to really work on my golf game. And it's not going to be for my golf. It's going to be because I want to build great relationships. And a lot of individuals that are around the golf course either had businesses or know people in business, at a high level. I think it's at the end of the day, if it's not something you want to do, don't do it. But find something where you're saying, okay, I'm pushing my comfort zone outside of something because I'm actually looking to do something new,
Mm-hmm.
and in a different setting, a setting where those individuals hang out.
It's all about going to the right setting. Interesting. Um, so what, as in, you've got a lot of plans from what we've discussed. What is next for you? What do the next 5 or 10 years look like for you? Do you have an idea of what that is? Do you know, like, are you gonna completely leave the game of poker, or are you gonna leverage poker to do something different, or are you just gonna completely just revamp and start something new, like you were never in poker in the first place?
I guess we're always shifting and changing, and if you talk to any entrepreneur 6 months down the line, and the whole map has changed. So
I know
only
that
predict,
feeling.
and even 6 months seems like a long time. But I know that right now, like like I say, staying in the game is really important. And as a player, like as in anything, keeping that skill fresh is really important. It's been my primary source of income for my whole life. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna let go of it straight away. If there's something that can change that in terms of what I do in business, which
Mm-hmm.
means I get to spend less time with poker. But at the end of the day, it's also an outlet for me as well. I love playing poker, so
Yeah.
I'm really looking at, I'm thinking of going to LA, checking out the tech scene,
Yeah.
or somewhere like that where I can get individuals together to work on my tech venture,
Mm-hmm.
um, and basically have something where I can do that and play poker at the same time. So
Yeah.
you kind of asked what that might be. It's basically a resource, something where these influencers online can be able to keep people up to date with their schedules, with what they do. Because I think with all these different apps, with the Periscope, with the Facebook Live, the YouTube Live, with the Lively, all these different things, it's like if you want to catch someone live, it's really, really hard. And there's no one
Mm-hmm.
place that says, okay, this person's going to be here at 7 and then they're going to be there at 8. And these individuals that have got lots of values, a lot of value to share, their stuff gets missed out on, and their opportunity to connect and to be there with them gets missed out on. And I think that's just the idea right now. It's always evolving. It's going to change. If that's successful, awesome. If it's something that changes and adapts, those relationships that I've been building will just help me in whatever I look to do at the end of the day.
Perfect. Well, we're just going to take a quick break and we'll be back with you guys shortly.